Do you know that you need to calm down and you need to reduce your stress? Maybe it's for your health or your well-being. Maybe it's so that everyone around you won't feel so stressed out by you, but you don't know how to do it since there's so much to do and you need to take care of yourself at the same time. Okay, today we have a treat for you. I'm April Perry, and here at LearnDoBecome, we help people who are overwhelmed by the details of life to create simple systems so they can do what matters most. And learning how to calm our nervous systems and how to change some of the beliefs that might be keeping us sick and stuck and stressed is one of those ways that we can enable ourselves to do what matters most. My guest today is Raelan Agle. She runs a YouTube channel where she taught me how to calm myself down, how to calm my nervous system, and I couldn't wait to bring her on to talk with you as well, because so many people here at LearnDoBecome are getting organized and they want to take care of their families and they're doing so many things, but they often don't realize that their bodies are on high alert. They're in fight or flight. And there are some very specific things that can help us to feel calm. Raelan, when she was 30 years old, was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome. She spent a full decade learning how to get out of that, and now she teaches other people. But whether you have a sickness or something, external right now, or whether just internally you have maybe more stress or more anxiety than you know is good for you, and you want to be able to feel more calm, I know that this interview is going to be game-changing for you. I'm actually recording this after I've already completed the interview, and it was so good. It just helps me to be able to feel more calm, more focused, more steady. These are not the flashy things that we often hear online. These are the true principles that will help us to be able to wake up excited and go to bed content. So we'll jump right in, but I hope that you enjoy this conversation with Raelan Agle. Hey, Raelan! Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Hey, April, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Just in talking with you a little bit before we press record, I can't wait for our community to be able to feel a huge sense of relief and be able to take a deep breath and to be able to know that there's hope if they're feeling overwhelmed, stretched, too thin, feeling like life can just suck the joy out of you if you let it. But you've been such a strength to me. So it's fun to get to talk. I'm really looking forward to this. So let's just dive in because I've already talked to you about how our community is set up of people who really they want to serve. They want to be there for people. They are learners. They want to live their best life. They're always looking for more information that makes life more peaceful and calm and doable because they want to do what matters most. And I would just love, kind of just for starters, for you to be able to share kind of an overall perspective of like what you want for your own life or what you're trying to lead people toward as far as a life that matters most and what you see kind of getting in the way.
I mean, this all stems from my personal experience of having gone through 10 years of chronic fatigue syndrome, which at the time when I first got it and became really unwell, had no idea that it was at all connected to the way I was living my life. I just thought there was something broken or, some sort of injury or illness in my body that was causing all these symptoms. And through my journey of my own full recovery past this, and now interviewing so many other people who have gone through a whole list of different health conditions, I hear a lot of themes that sound similar to what I know you talk about here with your listeners. And for many people, and you don't have to have chronic symptoms for this to be the case, but just to paint a picture, because I interview a lot of doctors and experts as well, and they estimate that about 40% of their patients are experiencing chronic symptoms as a result of nervous system dysregulation.
Oh my goodness.
So, yes, it's mind-blowing it's a completely different way of thinking about things and not trying to go down the chronic symptom rabbit hole too much, but just to show how many people are actually living in a chronic state of nervous system dysregulation, meaning that that fight or flight, like that
Mhm.
sympathetic nervous system is engaged pretty much all the time, and we don't even realize it. And it can have this whole cascade of impacts on our life, from anxiety and depression to overwhelm to all any and every physical symptom that can exist, can and does happen with people. And the pattern that I see from myself and from the hundreds of people that I've interviewed is pretty clear from where I'm sitting. And I think this is true for most people in life these days, is that they were living life in a way that was really not sustainable.
Mm.
A lot of overachievers, a lot of people trying to do it all. They are mom of the year, dad of the year, running a successful business, running marathons, ultra marathons, high performance athletes, PhDs, just really trying to excel at everything, or maybe just at one thing, but to be the best of the best.
Mhm.
And none of this is bad, right? We think it's okay to want to be an athlete, to want to be successful at your job, to be a great parent or spouse or sibling or child. But what I've seen and what people have told me time and time again is it's more about where is that coming from? What is that voice inside of you saying
Mhm.
about what happens if I don't get another degree? What happens if I don't make everyone around me happy? And it comes down to this ultimately, this feeling of like, I won't be safe is the simplest way to say it. But like, people need to like me. Otherwise, I'm not going to be okay. I'm not going to be enough in this world unless I have a perfect body. I'm not going to be accepted. People won't like me. No one will want to date me. I'm not going to be okay unless I have all of these accolades. So, are you running that marathon because you love training, because running brings you joy and it's a stress relief and it's your favorite part of the week when you go out and practice? Or is it because I need to have this checkbox next to my name so that I'll be enough?
Yeah.
So, it's
Oh,
yeah.
okay. So as you're talking, I'm having flashbacks to my whole life where I found like when I was in fifth grade, sixth grade, I kind of started feeling awkward, going into middle school. I think did all of us feel awkward in middle school? But I found that if I could get really good grades and win awards or become the president or whatever in student council, that people would respect me or they would say nice things about me.
Yeah.
And we even had this thing in our high school. It was this gold W that you could earn based on how many points you get. And you get points by participating in school activities and things like that. Anyway, they had something called a Diamond W, where if you got the most points, you got the Diamond W. And so I earned the Diamond W, and our activities director said she'd never met anyone who had more points than I did. And I thought, well, that means I'm like so great, right? But if you look back at my high school, I had like stress rashes. I wasn't sleeping very much. I still was having fun. It wasn't like my whole life was terrible, but there was so much geared towards achievement that it wasn't healthy for me. And I think that changes as you go through life. In high school and college, maybe it's very numbers based, get grades on a paper, things like that. But then as you get older, and maybe like for us, we're, entrepreneurs, you're building a business or you're raising a family. I think a lot of time you just end up redirecting that anxiety into other aspects of your life, whether it's your body, like you
Yeah.
were saying, or children, wanting them to be achievers, or numbers in a business. And I love what you're saying, but I do have just a question because I know there are people who are listening who maybe feel like I had felt, which was, oh, this all sounds really good, Raylan, but if I let go of my anxiety, like that's my secret weapon. That's my secret weapon to be super successful. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna like turn into a very content, mediocre person if I'm not anxious. So what would you say about that?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And it is, one way of understanding this is that, we develop these different parts throughout our lives that protect us. So there's that perfectionist that it sounds like developed for you early on. And she's like, we be perfect, we'll be okay. And then she's up there driving a lot of the time. And then you have an anxious part, like we need to be worried all of the time, or we might drop one of these 19 balls we have in the air. Like, if I'm not worried about them,
Yeah.
something's going to drop.
Yeah.
And you said something about, and then I'm just going to be mediocre. And I love that because I read this incredible book called The Perfectionist's Guide to Losing Control. And it's about adaptive and maladaptive perfectionism, is saying we need to stop trying to convince perfectionists that they should be mediocre. Like it's never going to happen. That's not what they want in life. So this is not the right approach. So it's about understanding where it's coming from. And then even if you say, if I stop being anxious, like if you think of it like a separate part of you that's protecting you and you ask it, like, what are you afraid is going to happen? if I stop being anxious, what's going to happen? Like, really, honestly, like, thanks for looking out for me. I appreciate it. But what do you see is going to happen here? And it's going to be different for everybody, but it might be, I don't know, maybe I'll forget to do something. And we're like, well, we have a calendar. We're going to follow it. Like, oh, the kids won't get fed. Well, have you ever not fed the kids before? Well, no, so it's just, it is a process. It's not a switch that you can flip off. And I'm not trying to make it sound like it is so easy, but I think just zooming out and seeing the big picture of it and seeing, is it really serving you? And having that conversation with your anxious part. Like, what are the downsides of being anxious all the time? Like,
Hmm.
how is it helping me? And what are the other impacts that it's having? It's like,
Hmm.
well, I'm never content. It's hard for me to relax. I'm not fully present. I don't sleep well, and just start to
Hmm.
really see the big picture of how much is this serving me? And what could it look like if we tried it a different way?
I love how you asked that question. And I think I'm hopeful that the people in our community who have sent in emails saying things like, "Hey, okay, I'm building my system, I'm getting organized. How do I get 5 days worth of stuff in one day?" Like, this is a question we get so often. I have all these things, look what I'm doing, and help me get them all in one day. And it's so, I hope that those people are listening right now because it's true when you step back and take a look at the bigger picture.
Mhm.
Like, well, what's the cost of that, first of all? But then
Yeah.
one of the key lessons that I'm learning, and maybe you've learned something similar, I'm sure, is that when I step back and I actually look at the purpose of my life, and I think, is the purpose of my life to play everyone else's game that they're telling me I have to
Mhm.
do things certain ways? Or maybe, like for me, I have a strong belief in a higher power. For me, if I step back and I look at my purpose and I think, maybe could my higher power help me to do that purpose in a way that's really healthy for me?
Yeah.
Is the only option for me to not sleep and work like crazy? Or could I step back and be prayerful and think smarter? And, like for example, we've been making just some changes here in our community where I used to do a very high stress project periodically. And we decided to step back and just switch it into like a coaching membership that just felt
Yeah.
so much more fun, so much easier, so much lighter. And it's still serving in a really beautiful way, but it didn't have to happen the way I had thought. So it's like helping me redefine success and also finding success, like the purpose, through different channels that actually end up being like the win-win, like a win for my nervous system and a win for the purpose. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh my goodness, so many. And glass house over here. So I'm not going to pretend to have this all figured out because I am that. I'm like, if how do I put 5 days into one? Like,
Yeah.
more is better. And let's do all the things. And I recently had to do something similar with my own business where I'm like, we're trying to do 19 different things. And I realized we're not doing any of them really well. So I
Mm.
have this, if some is good, more must be better attitude. And then how do I do it faster? And it's a really uncomfortable feeling for me to scale back initially
Mhm.
and just be like, what really matters? What am I trying to do this week? And I suspect it sounds like you found something similar. But instead of taking 5 days and trying to squish it into one, if you're already in that space, I suspect what you might need to consider is take that 5 days and turn it into 10.
Yeah. Mhm.
Because when I slow down and I scale down, all
Mhm.
of a sudden I'm doing everything better and actually am more successful because you're just more calm, you're more present, and just like crazy question to ask ourselves, but do we want to enjoy our life at all? Is this at all on the checklist?
Yes.
Or is it just work till you drop every single day or juggle all of the things every single day? So I heard this expression once and people react to it different ways, but it's been very powerful for me and I suspect it will resonate for people listening. And it's like looking at those 5 days. How much of that is for yourself? How much of that is for other people's expectations? And what I come back to a lot is if it comes down to disappointing someone else or disappointing myself,
Mhm.
it's got to be that other person,
Mhm.
which sounds harsh because it
No, I
is.
hear you.
And you can't have black and white thinking with this because it doesn't apply to every situation. If you have a hungry baby next to you and you're thinking, I'd rather meditate. Well, you probably need to put their needs first in that
Right.
moment. But generally speaking, most of us put up like, oh, that person really wants to go for lunch this week, but I just don't have time, but I don't want to let her down.
Mm.
So it's a complicated thing. It's a dance I think we're all figuring out. But why are we trying to do all these things? Who are they all for? How many are necessary? How could this look differently? What might happen if I slow down? What am I afraid is going to happen if I slow down? Is that true? Have
Yeah.
I tried it?
What we see online often reflects the people who are very anxious and who are very productivity driven. I heard this one time where someone said, "Oh, everyone online are people with anxiety disorders who are wired for productivity." And of course, that's a blanket statement that doesn't apply to everyone. But when I heard that, and I was like, "Oh, shoot, like I do feel anxious and I am wired for productivity." Like I don't want to spread
Yeah,
that in the world. But what's
yeah.
interesting is as I've gotten older and met a lot of different people, the people who are super grounded, who are
Mhm.
balanced, who are doing like really well in all those ways and have a calm nervous system, typically don't feel the need to always be on every single minute of every day. Like they
Yeah.
rest. They aren't doing a million things. So when you are comparing yourself often to other
Mhm.
people, especially through social media or online, often you can be like, oh, well, that person does a podcast every 3 days and they're doing 16 events and they have a mastermind and they like just I'm saying from an online perspective, it
Yeah.
looks like, well, wow, they just have unlimited energy. But you actually never know what's going on behind the scenes. And so I'm not here to make a judgment about anyone, but I'm just saying from what I'm noticing,
Yeah.
often the people who are the best examples, you're not going to see them because they don't feel that compulsion to always be in front of you,
Yes.
right?
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. Oh my goodness. I love this so much. And I've turned into one of these people that starts too many sentences with my therapist says, but through therapy, my therapist has helped me to realize through social media, this is my bar. I look online where everyone, and I thought I was past this. I thought I was smarter than this. I'm like, I'm not a 14-year-old. I'm not just comparing myself to people online, but I
Right.
do. And I see, and we just see the really hyper over the top people. That's what we're going to see the most. And we think, well, if they can do it, I can do it. But we have no idea what else is going on in their life. We have no idea if they need drugs or alcohol
Yeah.
or anything
Yeah.
to like just cope with life. Like we have no idea what's going on. And
Yeah.
also, everyone's wired a little bit differently. Like some of the examples that I would bring up in therapy would be like, Taylor Swift or Kristen Bell. And I'm like, they're just regular humans. If they can do that, like, why can I not even do this? And we pick out like the 0.00001% of the population and not even who they are, but the picture that is painted of them, especially at that higher level by a team of professionals that know how to market them. And you're like, why aren't I that? And I think that can keep you in a place of like, I need to keep running and running faster because I'm failing. If I'm not there, I am failing. But
Yeah.
that is not the world. And we don't know what's going on with them. And I've had to step away from social media for that fact because
Yeah.
it's just too easy to think, oh my goodness, I need to do more. I'm never doing enough. I'm never in shape. And I don't just pick the people who are the best in my field. I do that as well. So yes, I'm not doing the webinars. I don't have the best marketing. I don't have 3 social media posts a day, but then I also pick the top fitness person and I'm like, I'm not getting my 15,000 steps in. I'm not doing my 4 strength training. I'm not counting my calories and weighing my food. I'm not eating in a calorie deficit. And then I pick people that are in fields that are like nothing to even do with me. And I'm like, oh, I'm not doing that either.
And that's
It's
really a great
insane.
way to feel mentally healthy, right? Doing that comparison. But I think
Yeah.
that the desire, and I think everyone can relate to this because the desire to learn and to look around, I feel like that's all from a good place. It's like, well, if
Yeah.
I don't know something, I've learned a ton online. Like, how blessed have I been? Just from
Yeah.
your YouTube channel, for example, I can't tell you how many days I was just laying on my couch and I'd be like, okay, I'm just going to listen to Raelan. And like, I get a little choked up saying this because I didn't know if I was ever going to be better. Like, when I was going through the sickness, I started feeling afraid. I'd see people online like, "Oh, I've been sick for 41 years." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, is this my life? Like, am I going to be the lady laying down every day for the rest of my life?" And then listening to your voice and how you were telling me about joy and some of the stuff we'll get into here, like it gave me that hope, right? And so, I think from my perspective, where I feel like I had this super like close friendship with you, this one-sided friendship, but it's like changing my life and helping me get out of bed. And then to think that you'd be feeling sad that you weren't doing more, running faster, like that just hurts my heart, because you made such a difference to me. And I want just to acknowledge you for that. And just sometimes like you just don't know. Like the impact that you're having, you cannot see it and you don't know.
I'm really sorry, April, that you had to go through that. I'm glad that something I was putting out was helpful in that time. And it highlights a really great point because we think I'm not doing enough, I'm failing. Like, let's question that. When and my therapist says that I say, like, I'm not doing anything well. And she'd say, is that true? Is
Mm,
that really true? And I think we're all really hard on ourselves. We have a really strong inner critic that is well-intentioned, but it's got a distorted view of, who we are and how, what we're actually accomplishing. And also that run faster, do more. I'm dating myself here, but I don't know if anyone listening ever watched Dr. Phil, but he'd say in that kind of sarcastic voice, and how's that working for you? Run faster, do more, please everybody. Well, I think virtually everyone would be like, it's really not. This isn't working
right.
for me. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about now being like the supportive one and being a person who is showing up for people because there are probably a lot of people listening right now who say, okay, I'm not necessarily the high achiever. Like, I don't feel like I
Yeah.
have to go run a business, run a marathon. Like, I'm not that.
Yeah.
But I spend my life and I give my life force to supporting other people, whether it's children or parents or neighbors or friends. We have in our community some of the most compassionate people who, like, you need them for something, they are there for you. They want to help everyone else in the community. Like, as people are getting organized, they're cheering everyone on. Like, their lives are just being spent in beautiful service. And
Yeah.
like you need people like that in the world, right? And so that though, the same way you can end up caring so much that then you leave yourself, not having something and not having what you need. And there's one video I watched of yours that it stopped me in my tracks where you were talking about like, let's imagine you're at this restaurant and it's like a gathering, right? It's like a gathering of other people who also have the same like health issues. But you're like, several are ultra marathoners, and then you had this one girl that you explained where she made sure when everyone came in, they had a chair. And at the end, she didn't have a chair, but she's like, that's okay, because everyone else has a chair. So like she was very focused on everyone having a chair. And I laughed because like I don't run marathons and I'm not like I'm not on that end, but
Yeah.
I'm very much the person who would make sure everyone has a chair and it's fine, I'll just stand. So
Yeah.
how can that strength of being compassionate and like the kind friend that
Yeah.
everyone wants, right? Like,
Yeah.
give. How can that strength end up kind of being the Achilles heel? Like where it can cause a problem. Where would you say?
Yeah. I like you said, that kind friend that everyone wants. Because I think that's for many of us where it's coming from. Like
Hmm.
to be okay, to be accepted, to have friends, for people to like me, for me to be safe in the world, I need to be that person. I
Yeah.
need them to feel okay. And then they'll keep me around. And in that story that you were referencing, the woman who ended up standing, I depict her as being like a fake smile on her face. It's okay, I don't mind standing. She doesn't want to stand. She
Yeah.
wants to sit.
Right.
So like, where is it coming from? Again, just like having a conversation with that piece of you. Like, what are you afraid will happen if I don't do this? And
Hmm.
also, what is the personal cost to me to doing this?
Hmm.
Because sometimes kindness, what looks like kindness on the surface, can actually be stemming from fear and a lack of boundaries. And I
Yeah.
know this is a big gray area because we have obligations and we have children and we have relatives. So it's not like we can completely step away and just take
Yeah.
care of ourselves only. However, what I've seen, and this does come up with so many people that I interview that say, I don't relate. to the overachiever, to all of that, but I am that.
Mhm.
So this feeling of I put everyone else's needs first. If I don't do that, I'm not going to be okay. Like, even just think about a life where everyone else comes before you.
Mhm.
Like having those honest like reflections, like where is that coming from? How is that serving me? Is this how I want to live my life? How, I mean, as someone who relates to this, what do you see? Like, what do you think is going on here?
Well, I'm thinking a very specific experience from my life I'll share, and I think maybe I can go into it there. So when Eric and I had our first baby, and she had colic, and I had been, up around the clock, and he had this meeting he was going to for a full day, and he said, you know what? She takes a bottle. I'm going to take her to this meeting with me. She'll be fine. I'll carry her around. Like it's going to work. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. So he takes the baby for the day. And then I get a phone call from someone who had babysat our child a while before, and they wanted me to babysit their child. And they said, oh, hey, can you babysit our child for a couple hours today? Because, like, we only have this one time we need to go to this thing. So I said, yes. So this is my one day. I don't have a baby. And I say yes to babysit someone else's baby.
Oh my goodness.
In hindsight, I would be like, April, you tell them, you know what? I would love to
Yeah.
babysit for you. I'm not able to today, but I can do it like tomorrow, right? Okay. But I said yes. And so I think you're asking is why do you say yes? Like, why in
Yeah.
a moment like that when no one in the world would fault you for having one afternoon, right, or one
Yeah.
free day, why would you say yes? And I think I felt like, well, I need to be a good person. I need to be a good friend. This person needs me. I owe them. I like I just had like a moral obligation. I think I felt I had a moral obligation because if I said no, I can't, and this is something I've had to learn. Oh, it's so hard. It's not hard for some people, but for the people who are like super compassionate and people pleasers and this type of
Yeah.
personality, it's incredibly hard to say, "Oh, I actually need some time to rest or replenish, or I
Yeah.
really need to take care of myself today." I feel
Yeah.
like when I say that, there's this, oh, but are you really the kind, compassionate person that you want to be? Isn't that kind of selfish? Isn't that
Yeah.
you're gonna end up this really conceited, self-centered narcissist if you even step in that direction? There's like this
Yeah.
these warning bells that if I do that, I'm gonna become the cold, harsh people that I don't like to be around.
Yeah. And listening to that, what I'm hearing is to be a kind, good person, I need to have no boundaries.
Mhm.
And
I can have
also,
boundaries like I can take a shower for 5 minutes, or
oh,
I can
right.
have quiet if no one needs me.
Right. A
Yes,
very small amount of boundaries. But
right.
yeah. Yeah. And also that extreme thinking. I think so many of us do it. If I let her know, like, hey, this is my one afternoon with no baby. I am absolutely want to be here for you. However, today I need this time. And then we go to, I'm going to be a horrible person. I'm going to be selfish. Like it's just, and quite often when you just pause and ask yourself, and I like to think of it as something separate from me, that people pleaser, like, what do you think is going to happen if I say no to babysitting right now? And it's going to be
Mhm.
all of those crazy things. And it's going to, like, it's amazing how it comes out. Like, I'm going to have no friends. I'm going to be a horrible person. I'm going to lose my job. My husband's going to leave me. Like, it's just so extreme. You're like, whoa, okay, let's just check that. Is that all of that true? Like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's a tough one. It's
Yeah,
tough,
for
especially with
sure.
women, because we are socialized to basically have no boundaries. Like we are brought up to be like, you say yes, you be there for other people. I'm not saying men don't experience this as well. I do think we get a much stronger dose. I don't have children, but the mom guilt has got to be off the charts. I remember even thinking a friend of mine had a baby recently, and about a week after the baby was born, she left the baby with a family member, and her husband went out on date night, and they're like showing them with drinks. And even me without children, I'm like, that baby's a week old, and then I'm like, that mom has good boundaries and self-care. She's like, I deserve 2 hours,
Yes,
to
love that.
myself.
And I think
So
you hit the nail on the head. I really think the key word there is boundaries, and it's
yeah,
learning how to be able to recognize that setting boundaries is not a rude, mean things. It's really the only way to make it sustainable. And I think that's one of the
yeah,
key lessons I learned is because as I was getting out of this sickness and going through your course and thinking through my life and and meeting with my therapist, right? Like a coach I
Yeah.
meet with, I thought, okay, I'm recognizing there are things about my personality that are keeping me stuck.
Mhm.
It was super subconscious, which it drives me nuts when things are that deep. Like, I have no idea why I'm doing it, but I am. It was super subconscious, but I think my belief was if I feel better and if I have lots of energy, then people are going to just suck it from me. So it's
Yeah.
better for me to stay in bed and not
Yeah.
have energy than to have my boundaries consistently just, trotted upon. And that was so subconscious because it wasn't like an obvious thing that was happening. It was just,
Yeah.
and I was making it all possible for people. I wasn't setting boundaries. So how can you blame someone for for
Yeah.
not respecting boundaries when you don't put them up? Like
Yeah.
that has to happen. So, shifting a little bit now, talking about like our health and our self-care, I want to talk about this a little bit. One of the things I've started my phrase is extreme healthcare or extreme self-care. So I tell my husband, I'm like, okay, I'm focusing on extreme self-care.
Oh
And
boy.
when I list off what that means,
It sounds scary.
it
I'm
sounds
tired
scary, like
already.
extreme self-care. He goes, April, that's what most people would call self-care. Like you call it extreme self-care. But
Yeah.
so that's one of my daily routines now is I practice extreme self-care. And it's so funny. It means like I shut the computer so I can go have lunch. It means I take more walks and listen to audiobooks rather than do more computer work. Like it means I slow down my projects a little bit. Like the stuff that's my extreme self-care, it's so funny. But for me, I have to add the word extreme in to get me up to like what normal people would do. So anyway, I would love to just hear what's your perspective on self-care. I mean, because I know you're practicing it, you're doing it,
Yeah.
and I know it's a struggle for all of us.
Yeah. Okay, now I get it. When I first heard it, I was picturing this boot camp of self-care and you got, I don't know, you've got a red light therapy mask on, you've got a weighted vest, you're like, I don't know, meditating all at the same like
All the things.
but you're right, because you're so far, like many of us on one end of the spectrum,
Mhm.
for you to do these fairly basic things, you have to think of it like, okay, I'm going to be extreme. Um, and I could borrow that sometimes because I relate. It's relatable. Lately, I've been thinking about self-care as the first thing I would say is joy. I
Mm,
think it's the best thing you can do for yourself. And most of my life, I've thought of it as a bonus that you get to have when everything else is done. It's a nice to have, but it's not a need to have,
yeah.
right? Like I probably have gone years of my life where spent the entire day and never once thought, will I do anything today that will bring me some joy? Like that wasn't even in the thought process.
Mhm.
So I think of like self-compassion and self-care and joy all wrapped into one because self-compassion is giving yourself moments of joy, which might be shutting your laptop, which might be having an enjoyable meal, which might be going for a walk. And it's also for me realizing that balance doesn't exist. For many years, I'm still a bit recovering on this one, working on it, but thinking that self-care means that you have all of these things that you do and you get them all perfectly every week. It's a perfect balance of work and family and social life and physical care and mental health care. And just knowing that it shifts every week. You know, one week might be a little bit work heavy, but just to be conscious of that. And then the next week, we're going to be a little bit more like joy heavy and balance it out. Again, I think it's a bit of a dance. I think all of us want a prescription to follow. And there is no one thing that is for everybody. So what it looks like for me is going to be what is different for you is for something else. But self-care ultimately comes down to like finding something where I'm being my most authentic self. I'm doing things for the reasons that matter to me, not because other people think I should be doing them. I'm doing things that are sustainable
Mhm.
because I also have a history and I know many people I interview get into the pattern of, well, I can do this for a little while, whether it's working long hours or juggling two jobs or being a mom and running a business or whatever that looks like. And a
Mhm.
little while ends up being 5 years.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't feel sustainable this week, then it's not sustainable. So
Oh,
just like, how do we put more breathing room in our life? and just take the pressure off ourselves.
A phrase that I use often is I want to wake up excited and go to bed content. Like that's my little
Mhm.
standard. And I find whenever I'm not doing that, it's because something's kind of off in my either in my lack of self-care, my self-care,
Yeah.
or in how I'm looking at it. And it's so funny, but I think it's really important to surround ourselves with healthy voices. And that's one of the reasons I love listening to your videos when I was going through so much because my husband would like I'd tell him, okay, so Raylan told me this. And he said, April, have I not been telling you that for years? But if Raylan tells you, all of a sudden it's just amazing. I'm like, but she
Yeah.
understands where I've been. Like she's gone through it. Anyway,
Yeah.
it was so funny. There were so many times that my husband was like, I have told you these things. I tell you, take care of yourself and find joy, you know. But
Yeah.
for some reason, it meant meant more at that time coming from you who'd been through the same thing. But I think the more we're around people who have our true health and our true well-being at
Mm-hmm.
at the heart of like their goals, and what they're saying is not just so we will be manipulated to do what they want us to do, but they
Mm-hmm.
genuinely care about us. When you're around that, I feel like it makes it so much easier to make those decisions. We even have like the personal board of directors that you have in your head. You
Mm-hmm.
pick like the five people in your life who you feel genuinely want you to be well. And you ask them, what would you do at this point? Or
Yeah.
would you put this pressure on yourself at this point? Do you think I should put this pressure on myself? And if you really can dial into what that personal board of directors would say to you, the answers are pretty easy, right? Like
Yeah.
they're never going to say, "Oh yeah, you didn't sleep well and there's someone in your family who's really struggling and you've been emotionally supporting them a lot and you have been attending a lot of different events and oh, and you want to take a rest?" No,
Yeah.
right? Like they would never say that to you. They would be like, "Hey, have compassion on yourself." And I think there is this balance because still, I don't want to feel like, oh, I have such compassion on myself and I have so much extreme self-care going on that now I've just forgotten about everyone else who's struggling and I'm not there for them. Like it's not that extreme
Mhm.
again, but it's like what's sustainable.
Yeah. I read this book recently called The Mountain Is You, and I forget the author, but they're talking about something that I think is similar to what you're saying. And it's to check in with yourself throughout the day, at any point in the day, with what you've got in front of you, and ask, what would the most powerful version of me do right now? And the most powerful version of you isn't the one that like can bench press her own body weight and runs six businesses. It's really just your true self, like the authentic core of who you are. Like if I
Mm-hmm.
am just my best me right now, like really truly looking out for what I need, what would I do right now? Like it might be where I'm trying to get myself to go to the gym and I'm giving myself all these guilt messages of like, show up for yourself, no excuses, get to the gym. And then, but if you pause, you think, wait, like I only slept 3 hours last night. I'm exhausted. I worked all day. The most powerful version of me would say, rest. This isn't what you need right now. Go for a massage, take a nap, but just that check in, whether
Yeah.
it's, thinking about the core of who you are, really what's best for you, or like we say, like if it were somebody else, like if it were a friend, what would we tell them to do in that
Yeah.
moment?
So smart. So smart.
Yeah.
Well, and then as I was getting out of the illness, I found there were like two main things that were helpful to me. One was changing my personality characteristics that were causing me to be the achiever, the people pleaser, right? Like, so it was like things just stopped
Yeah.
doing. And I had to make some changes. Like there, I had to have some hard conversations with some people, and I had to make some structural changes in my life that
Hmm.
were really difficult, but they were absolutely essential because it was unsustainable. There were some things happening that just needed to change. But then the other side was I needed to create joy. And I want to talk about that a little bit. I even have, so I'll show you. I did my homework in your course. You were telling us to make our joy list, like joy now and joy later. Like what can I do now?
Yeah.
What do later? So I have in my little planner, I keep my list where I had, I actually called it fun now and
Ooh, I like that.
fun soon. And I wrote down all my list of things that like, okay, what could I do now? That would be super fun. And they were very simple. And my fun soon was like all my dreams that, places I want to travel or like things that I want to
Yeah.
do that are more fun. But just the concept of having what feels like so fun to me? What feels exciting?
Yeah.
I had completely squashed all of that for months.
Yeah.
I was completely living in, oh my goodness, I'm sick. How do I get out of sickness? I'm probably be sick forever. What do I do if I'm sick forever? Right? It was all this kind of stuff. Maybe I should start like canceling everything from the rest of my life. Like that's what I was doing. And then to switch from that to joy, can you just explain what was happening in my brain that made me then start feeling better?
Yeah, it's one of these things that I've always, oh boy, here's where people are going to stop listening because this sounds like garbage.
It's not garbage. It totally
Spe-
worked.
especially with my audience, which is typically people who were where you were,
Mhm.
facing very severe chronic symptoms. They're really suffering. So to have someone talk about joy can feel invalidating or like woo woo or like, how does this fix anything right now? You don't understand my life right now. Joy isn't going to fix anything. But for so many of us, whether we have chronic physical symptoms that are happening, or perhaps some, cognitive or like depression or anxiety, or maybe not even anything that we're clocking, our nervous system is in that high alert, dysregulated state, which
Mhm.
impacts so much of our life. So
Mhm.
it's really all about trying to get it more balanced. And I like to think of it like a DJ board, like there's dials. So there's that sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight, the bear is chasing you, whatever's going on, you're in a panic. And it's like, okay, we got to deal with that. And then there's the parasympathetic, which is sometimes called rest and digest. And it's dialed up more when things are calm. And then, it focuses on, different things in your body. And they're both always engaged and they're both always important. But sometimes that the bear is chasing me one is up way too high. So there are simple things that you can do to bring it down. And your nervous system, for the most part, doesn't respond to words. You can't just say, stop being stressed out, everything's okay. It responds to feelings, to behavior. And the simplest way to show your nervous system and your brain and all your threat assessment systems that everything is okay is by doing something that brings you joy. Because you're not going to stop and smile at a flower while being chased by a tiger, right? If you're like laughing, smiling, feeling good, your nervous system's like, oh, everything
Mhm.
must be okay. And everything gets more back where it should be. So it doesn't sound like a serious, solid prescription for anything, but
Yeah.
the number one theme from everyone that I talk to who is going through these various conditions is that they needed to bring more joy into their life and that
Mhm.
that was the most powerful change that they made to turn things around for themselves.
Yeah.
And also, it just feels good. Like,
Yeah.
let's just have some joy.
100%. The joy and then the evidence list that I made, like every time I did something, I'm like, oh, look, see what I did? That was
Yeah.
super helpful. And it started with a bowling. We went bowling because I was like, okay, I could do, 10 frames that they call it. So I went bowling and had the best time. And I came home and like, look, I was out bowling, even though I felt sick and would have wanted to be back in bed. And I felt like I was walking out of mud for a long time. It
Yeah.
took about a week of feeling like I was in mud. But then anyway, I came right out of it. And now I'm every time I'm like out walking or I can do a full day now, pull an all dayer. That's what my kids joke about. Like, look, mom, you pulled an all
Yeah.
dayer. Oh, but I don't need a nap. But I feel like, wow, this is amazing to have energy again and to have joy. And I think maybe my kind of closing thoughts for today, and I'd love to just turn it over to you to any other final thoughts you want to share for our community. But my closing thoughts are that we want to create lives of joy and we want to be able to give from that joy. Just
Yeah.
because we have self-care and we, are watching our boundaries and we're taking care of our, our health and our overall well-being, it doesn't mean that we're selfish or that we won't be able
Yeah.
to do the things that will fulfill our purpose or to be able to create strong communities and strong families and the things that like we would die for. Because yeah, I
Yeah.
would die for my husband, my kids, like for causes that really matter to me. But I want to be able to create a life where I can live for those things. Like
Yeah.
they need me and if I can take care of myself, I can be there for them. And I think being able to create that life of joy, it's possible, but it doesn't come the way that most of the world is telling you to do it. It comes in a
Yeah.
way, that's what we've been talking about today, that's sustainable, that's healthy overall. And our bodies will let us know. Like if you're
Yeah.
going through migraines or back pain or,
Yeah.
chronic fatigue, your body's just giving you that information that something needs to change. And I just feel so grateful for you for the changes you helped me to make. And I just want anyone in our community who feels like they kind of lean towards the achieving or people pleasing or that
Yeah.
type of thing to see that there's a different way and it can bring so much joy.
And how great is it to be around other people who model that? Because
Mhm.
if you're living that way, I feel like it's giving me permission to
Mm,
live that way.
yeah.
We're continuing the problem by trying to do all of the things. And I get for some people, joy right now might feel like a stretch because some people are in a world of pain and a lot of things are going on. So it is a spectrum, and you might just start inching your way over. So that's why we do the joy now and the joy later, because sometimes it can feel like there is nothing I can do right now that will bring me joy.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of one example of a person who is bedbound, really severe with symptoms, and they used to love to dance. And it's like, I can finger dance right now. So just
I love
put
that.
some quiet music, and it sounds ridiculous, but it really is trying to take your power back. What can I do right now that will bring me a little bit of joy? And for you, it might even just be contentment. Joy might be a stretch, but as you inch your way over, you will find that you get farther and farther down, even if it feels impossible right now with what you've got going on.
I love it. Thank you so much, Raelan, for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. This has been amazing. I love all the work that you're doing. Yeah, it's such important messages.
And we'll link to your social and your website and your program here along with this recording. When I was following you, I said to my husband, okay, so Raylan's got this course. I think I'm going to take her course. He's like, I don't know why you haven't already bought her course. Will you please just go buy her course? You're talking about her all the time. Anyway, so I will put a plug in that it was so good. I made time every day while I ate my breakfast. I watched Raylan's course and went through it. And anyway, you're a gem and doing such good work. So thank you.
That's so nice to hear. Thank you for sharing that. You know what it's like when you're on the other end. It's hard to really tell. You hope things are helpful and that they're landing for at least some people, but
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. You're doing great work. And I hope that everyone will go flood over and get your course and and be able to make the changes that they need to make. So thank you.
Yeah, wonderful.
Okay, I hope that you enjoyed today's conversation. I hope that you'll check out Raylan's brain training program and share her channel and her videos with other people you know who also want to feel calm or who maybe are going through some chronic fatigue or long COVID or something like that. But I hope also that you'll apply what you learned today to your life. Maybe think about how you look at achievement, how you look at supporting other people, how you look at self-care, and see if there are some little tweaks that you could make that would help you to feel more calm and balanced and centered. We're so, so happy you're here with us at LearnDoBecome. And if you want to learn more about how to calm your mind by getting organized to create a system so your brain doesn't have to spin in circles, then come check out our STEP program at learndobecome.com/step. Okay, we will talk to you soon. Have a great day.